So I recently read this book called Days at the Morisaki Bookshop by Satoshi Agisawa. So it's a light-hearted short story about a woman in her 20s who resorts to staying with her eccentric uncle after a bitter heartbreak as a coping mechanism. But little does she know that her love for books that she thought she never had awakens suddenly in the middle of her working in the second-hand Morisaki bookshop, which is owned by her family for 3 generations now. This being the overall essence of the storyline, my expectations out of this book, after I read the summary of the book, I thought this book was made of dreams of books and books lovers and everything related to books and how these people met regularly, shared with each other their love for books and stories over a sip of coffee, and how they changed the world only for the better. But annoyingly, this expectation was hammered down as only 10% of this book is related to books. And most interesting parts for me in this book weren't even related to books at all, which was even more surprising. But as I completed more than half of the book, I began to think that the lead characters of the lead characters of Takako, her uncle Satoru, his wife, and Takako's aunt Momoko, their characters were explored half-heartedly somewhat by the author. The author couldn't give full justice to the characters and the developmental arcs of the storylines. Each and individual arcs weren't given full justice by the author, and I somewhat didn't like the full story and how this book ended, at least for me. For example, Aunt Momoko's sudden disappearance out of her uncle's life feels forced and stretched in some way, and also there is nothing to the character of Uncle Satoru besides his love for reading books and his love for traveling. That's it. There's nothing else that the author tried to explore in that particular personality as an uncle of a woman in her 20s who owned a second-hand bookshop. And also this main character of Takoko, whose heartbreak and her sudden awakening, her love for books, is all that I could capture out of this character. But one storyline which I got interested in surprisingly was that of the evolving bond between Aunt Momoko and Takoko. Out of the blue, which just hit that right spot, I was glad that I could enjoy something in this book. After all, the two of them taking a trip together on the mountains and staying there at a homestay and going hiking early in the morning and coming late at night all tired and eager to sleep and hungry was all that I could relate to personally, and that's why maybe I was so interested in like that arc of both of them and their growing bond over their trip, and that's all that I actually liked and look forward to in this book. And that storyline was so non-bookish and so non-book related that I was surprised that this book is advertised. The reviews are also advertised in the sense that this is entirely a book for book lovers. It was nothing like that, honestly. I just discovered that there's a part 2 to this book.